this is Kevin back here at Wagon Garage. We're back here at Keith's house now. We've officially got the Hemi tore apart. Went through everything, measured everything out as we was tearing it apart. Got most of our parts organized out, what we need. Got official cam specs on it now, where we just told what it had in it, and that was pretty much a lie of what it was, but it's okay, we'll be all right. But after doing all the tear down, the specs on it, this motor comes out to be exactly an Indy cylinder head super street Hemi. So the horsepower rating is probably a little lower than what we thought. Might be the reason why we couldn't get the numbers we wanted out of it, but still very impressive numbers overall. And on top of that, it was time for this thing to come apart. It was flat wore out. The bearings overall weren't bad, but we had some main bearings flaking and coming apart in it. We don't know why exactly they would be flaking and coming apart. The wear on the surface doesn't look bad. Don't look like they've run dry in oil. Don't look like they've got hot. They are a 2007 model bearing, so is it possibility the age of it got them? Don't know. Rod bearings overall, I was pretty pleased to see what we had there. They looked really good, but they needed to be changed also. It was time for bearings for sure. The problem we run into is rings and pistons. The top ring on this thing is I'm not sure what ring it was actually in it, so, but it looks like it's a multi compound ring, so it has different material in it, and it looked like it was coming apart. So I'll see if Race can put a picture in the video there of one of those rings, and that way you can see what's going on. Looks horrible. There's no way anything was sealing on that top ring. And on top of that, every ring we pulled off the piston had different tensions on them. They were all just all over the place. Some of them, the tension was so gone on the ring that we physically had to get in there and pry the ring open to get it off the piston. There was absolutely no press left on that ring to the cylinder. They were just gone. Which brings us to the second ring. The second ring, at least 4 of them, if not more, was stuck on the piston. None of the lands are beat up, nothing. They were just, I guess, dirt. And we may have to look into that a little bit. We don't run any kind of filtration on the scoop, even when we're street driving. Not that this thing has a lot of street miles on it, but it's still, I guess, maybe enough dirt's got in there and everything. It actually caused the, which I don't know why the second one, but it caused the rings to stick in the ring groove. After just cleaning them up just a little bit, the rings were loose and just fine, but when we pulled it apart, they were stuck. But we do have some pictures of the bearings and rings, and we'll show you some of that stuff. So it leads us back to the issue we was having. This thing never reacted to nitrous oxide like we wanted it to. It always was very disappointing when you sprayed it. And we had noticed that over the last couple years that we was having to push it harder and harder all the time just to run the 550 index. So and the mile an hour was way down on this thing, so I think all that was due to piston ring and blow by in the engine. So I think that's good. That'll be a big improvement for next year. The pistons themselves, don't know how it was built that way, but there's about 13 thousandths cylinder wall clearance to the piston, which it's a very short skirt piston, and the piston pin is very high in the piston, which causes a lot of piston slap in it, which could cause a lot of the ring issues that we're seeing on the rings also. So we're gonna see what we can do about getting a new set of pistons for it, even if it may not even be an option this winter with the way the manufacturing stuff's going right now. So we need to get one weighed out at least, and talk to a couple manufacturers here and see what they can do as far as weight. Would like to see a little more piston to valve clearance, and eventually put a bigger camshaft in it, which we had plans of putting a bigger cam in it this winter, but there's absolutely no room in this engine right now for a bigger camshaft. So, which, come to find out, this is just over 700 lift cam in the motor, and for this cubic inch, it's not a lot of cam. It could use a lot more for what we're doing. But anyway, it was time for the engine to come apart. It was still running some decent numbers, but it wasn't running like it should have. Obviously, it's got to be much better next year after this. We're going to change a few parts up on it. But overall, it's just going to be a possibly pistons, rings, bearings, and just a general freshen up, good cleaning up, get everything back fresh again, and valve job on it, which we got the cylinder heads tore apart over there right now. Nothing out of the norm looks too bad on the cylinder heads. They all look pretty good, so we're pretty happy with that. But I think that's about it on this for right now. We'll let you know more once we get to the point of putting this thing back together and what we can do with it. Second of all, I guess you see this thing sitting here, and Keith's kind of got out of his mind on this, but he physically has no money in it. He's traded and wheeled and dealed in this engine. He basically has $0 in, and he turned around and got on Marketplace and then found this intake to throw on it that's already got two kits on it. It has a regular NX fogger, and then it has spray bars in the intake itself. So not that it would do much good with this stock block, but if he ever comes up with a good cylinder block, and I think the rest of it probably be pretty decent. Maybe have to up the rods a little bit, get a little bit better rod in it, but this thing could be a pretty decent horsepower engine when it's all said and done, with enough spray on it, as long as we can keep it together. It's got they're CNC ported the Indy -1s, but I don't see the tag on them. I can't remember what the intake or the port size is on them or anything, but anyway, there's CNC cylinder head on it. It's got he took the Indy rockers off, put Harlan Sharp on it to take care of that problem. Did put a main girdle in it, hoping for the best, but I honestly don't think it's going to help do a whole lot of anything to it. But Maybe it will hold it together a little bit better. I don't know. But we'll see how it goes. He's got a couple years, so he probably needs to do some testing and just get used to the car in general once we do get the Duster going. So anyway, we'll have more videos on the Duster probably shortly. We've got it pretty much ready to start putting the roll cage in it. It will be our first complete roll cage. Kind of in the making here. We did use the new bender and stuff last year on Jody's truck a little bit, but this will be our first one complete. Hopefully learn a lot off this one and what not to do, and hopefully we can learn. And I would like to get another project of mine in the next year or two and start on it. Race's little Dakota, we want to put a probably like a little 4.4, 6-point or whatever, just a row bar and some down bars on it, something to put his seat belts, fasten his seat belts securely to, and something to keep the roof off his head. You know, that truck's not going to be super fast by any means, so we just want something to keep him a little safer than what it is right now. So hopefully we can learn a little more on that, get it done this winter or spring. The 69 project right now has been kind of on hold while I've been working on the coupe new steel body. We'll show you more video of it here, well, probably at the end of this video, but we're gonna head to the house here this afternoon and start recording some more there. I think that's pretty much it for right now. We'll cut off here for now and come back. All right, we're back now here at my garage. We're back with the actual body, all steel coupe body here. We've been working pretty much non-stop for several weeks here, and Jody's been doing all the stripping by hand, all hand sand and all. A lot of nooks and crannies and stuff to get paint out of. The red paint that was on the car, I believe is probably some kind of enamel paint. And then the original black and primer is still on the car. Not for sure what kind of paint that was, but it clogs paper like instantly. So we've been running through tons and tons of sandpaper, and all these little nooks and crannies on this car has all been hand sanded out, and it takes a lot of time and a lot of paper to get all that done. But Jody's been doing a really, really good job of getting everything stripped down. Of course, the shop is a complete mess right now. We got dust, red dust everywhere. While he's been stripping that down, I've been trying to get all the rust repair done. I may have talked about this on an earlier video, but we were going to get patch panels for this car, and I had located a place that was making patch panels for it. And when I went to order the patch panels back in September, I was notified that they no longer produce them. So we pretty much had to just start making our own dies and starting to hammer and dolly and use the shrinker stretcher, and just physically started making patch panels for this car. I'll show you a little bit of that over here in a minute when we get to it, but I want to go ahead and walk around and kind of show you what all we've had to patch on this thing. This Front up here was actually really good shape. We just had to put a small panel in it. I'm not completely finished with it, getting it sanded out. We had to do a small patch up here at the front corner. That's getting in there pretty good. I got to do a little finishing on it yet. Rocker panels were really solid. Really didn't have no issues with the rocker panels themselves. But when we got back in here to the lower quarter, this whole area was just completely rotted out of the car. There was nothing left of the lower quarters. So if you look really close, this is a very difficult line to produce. And I'll show you the die here in a minute we used to produce that line right there, and actually hand hammer this all out and do what we had to do to weld it all back in. Then you go through the wheel lip. We had some issues on the wheel lip here where we had some rust up into this area, so I had to build the wheel lip in a couple different pieces. And then I had to replace the whole lip itself on the bottom side all the way around. And we got all that in, welded up. And then we go back here to the back, and we got the gas cap door covered. We got the hole for the, had a spare tire on it. And then this whole lower part was rusted out, and I had to remake that piece and weld all that in. And may go back and touch this up or do a little something different. We're not really pleased with the outcome of it, but we're coming along with that. And I think we got a plan to fix what we had. Now when we get into these corners, as you can see, a lot of body lines, a lot of difficult area to work with. And I was trying to make it out of one piece from basically right here is where you can see I can cut it. And then it would have come down across here, down, and all the way through this center of that body line down. As I was trying to make it, I could not make those bends with the equipment I have here. So we had to end up cutting it into a couple different and putting, I think this is just a two-piece deal that we done there. But physically, again, had to hammer and dolly that body line out and build this body line here up. And of course, this whole back is done with the shrinker stretcher and bent around. So very difficult area to build. A lot of time built up in doing that. We was a little more fortunate with this wheel lip here. It wasn't quite as bad as the driver's side. So we was able to just cut it straight up through the center all the way around and just replace one piece all the way around in there. Come out really good. This quarter here was worse than the other side. Basically started here, same thing, one piece, bent up under, around, done the body line, done that body line, and then of course welded it all in, hammered, dollied it out. Turned out really good overall. And then coming forward here, this lower here was a lot worse than the other side. So this is all one piece here made out, and then I had to physically come back and put this piece in separate and make that out of another one. So it's actually made out of two separate pieces, but still had to put that body line into it, had to put this line in there, and it actually wraps around the door jamb, and had to put all that body line there into it. So overall, that one was another pretty difficult piece to make. As you can see, Jody's got all that there stripped out around the windows. That's a pretty big deal. He's actually got the doors stripped down. He's got the trunk lid stripped down. So we're getting really close to be able to get primer or sealer on the car. Once we get the sealer on it, we want to take and cut the body off the jig here, test fit it on the chassis, make sure all the roll cage, everything's gonna clear, and make sure our rockers where they need to be and all that stuff. And then we can, we're probably gonna make the firewall then on the car, and then pull the car back off the chassis and start doing the body work. So hopefully coming up this weekend, we're going to have this thing sealed. Going to be close. There's a lot of work still needs to be done, but I would like to really get some sealer on everything and try to get this bare metal all under wrap where we don't have to worry about any rust coming back. And I'm gonna go ahead and show you a couple of these dies that I built here. And these things are pretty crude because it was just made out of anything I had in the shop. But for instance, like this piece right here would be this wheel lip body line right here. So if I need to make that wheel lip like up there on the front, I can set this piece down into this die like so, which I welded another piece on it last night making something else. But anyway, as you can see right there, how that comes around. And I can basically set a flat piece of metal in, start wrapping it around this edge right here. And once I get it flat right there, I take a hammer and we'll just set it up inside the bench like the vise like that. And we'll just grab this hammer here. Use our pecking hammer right here, and we'll just come back through with this and hammer on that line down through there. A lot of this, when I got started on them, I was actually taking this chisel and setting it, and I'd draw a line out where I wanted that chisel from the bottom edge where I wanted this, and I'd just go down that and chisel that in and get that into that mark right there. And then once I have that, I can come back with this hammer, dolly all that, or hammer all that into that until I get the nice crisp line like I want. And then you just take the hammer and dolly after that and flatten all this back out as smooth as you can get it. And just work the body line if you got to work it a little bit here and there. But we got that die right there to do that bend. Then I built this one here, which is bigger, but it's for the bottom line on the car. And here's one I messed up on. This is my first try at making that lower quarter. And it was actually really close overall. But what we ended up with, and you can see on my die here, we had to add about a 1/4 inch to make that about a 1/4 inch wider. This was not wide enough there, and I decided we probably could have got away with it with a little bit of filler in that line, and I thought, well, I went ahead and redone the die for the passenger side, and when I done it, it come out so good, I thought, well, I'm gonna go back and redo the driver's side again. So basically you would just take a piece of flat metal and set it in here. And let's just say you had this piece of flat metal. You could set it on that corner right there, bend it around like so. And the exact same thing like I was showing you a while ago. After you put a nice straight line to keep this die on, you come in here, use this, and this one ain't quite long enough to do what we want it to, but we'll get it for the camera. Just a little bit of work on it. And as you can see already, it's just not wanting to do what it needs to do, but you just keep forcing that down in there. We'll get this over here like we want, and then start taking this. Keeps popping out of the bottom because it ain't quite long enough, but You just keep working that into that groove until you got what looks like the body line there. And you got to come back. Of course, that one's not crisp enough yet, but then you got to come back and get the dolly on the back side and start working that back and forth. And it's got a little curve to it, but most of those, this curve wasn't quite enough, so I had to come back and start doing a little finesse on that. And I was able to put a little bit of more curve back into that. That side there looks a little better, but anyway, you get the gist of how he's doing it. So pretty crude way of making stuff, but it got us through what we needed to do. Panels turned out great in my opinion for what we're doing. I'm not an expert metal man, so there's a lot of people out there probably be a lot better and could tell you better ways to do it, but for a home shop doing different things, this works out really well. This one here was for this backlit right there, and it was the same thing. Set the metal inside this little groove here, bend it over, and then you could just start hammering and basically just tapping it around that curve and get that radius you wanted there, and it come out just almost perfect radius all the way through there. So them are most of the tools that we use to make these panels that you see on there, and just a lot of time and hammering and dolling trying to get this done. This radius here, this one here didn't turn out quite sharp enough, but anyway, this here, there is no tool that you can use to put that in there. And the best thing I actually found is after I drilled my line where I wanted that at, I just took a socket just like that, and I would set this on here, and I was actually using a big, I think it was this punch right here, just a flat punch there, and I would set it in there, and I would just hammer this thing around inside of that socket and start forming that around. Once I got that, then I could come back and I made, that's what a lot of these hang-offs and stuff you're seeing right here, like this one's a different one here. And I can turn this upside down now and just set that on that edge and follow that edge around there and go ahead and tap it in farther. This was made for a different radius I was doing last night. That was for the firewall area, and it was a little bit sharper edge, so I wanted something sharper on that radius there compared to like that one's fairly sharp. You know, that one has a big radius on it, so there was different choices, and we just kept adding to it and tapping around on it. And every one of them done a certain job, and they worked actually really good. So you can keep stuff like that in mind if you're doing that kind of work. It's just if you see a body line, just make you something to jig it up and make something you can form the metal around and create the body line, and then cut whatever you need out of it and weld it in the car. So that worked out really well. So basically we got the metal work done. Hopefully by the Wednesday, Thursday this week, I'd like to really have all the metal work done. There's still some just little stuff that I'm trying to do. I'm still working on the cowl area. Of course, originally all this area was covered by hood, and it also had the seal for the belt line there going around, and it was very crude how they had all this. You can still see some of the rivet or the spot welds, how bad they are. But like this area here was actually pushed in probably a ½ inch or better, so I had to get in there, and it's double walled, and hammer all that back out and get as smooth as I could. ground this line out. They had some big welds in there that, like I said, nobody was ever was meant to see that because it was under hood before. But now this is all gonna be visible to your eye as you're looking at the car, because there will be no hood. And then this area right here where they done the spot welds was really bad too. Of course, we cut all the spot welds out to get the old firewall out. The original firewall was really damaged. It just cut up real bad. It wasn't rusty or anything like that. Just very cut up, where people had tried different things, and I don't know if they tried to do an engine swap or what, but they had the transmission area and stuff like that cut up and bent up, and it was really old days type of stuff where they looks like they took a big sledgehammer and hit it, or just took some snips and cut the metal and stuff like that. So we got a new firewall panel over there. We found a company that would make the panel for us. It was originally 18 gauge, but we went ahead and went a little thinner on it. But it is still a replacement firewall, so we're gonna go ahead and put that in. I still have to modify it because it doesn't go down far enough, but we'll have to do what we gotta do with it and make it right. You can see a lot of the stuff that we've had to do on the back side here with the patch panels and stuff in there, so it gets you a good idea of what kind of work have to be done. We still got a lot of stuff we need to cut out of this body, trying to lighten it up yet. We're wanting to cut some more of that bracing out. A lot of stuff around the windows has to come out because the roll cage is so close to it that it won't work in the location it's at. So we're gonna go through and remove some of that. But like I said, hopefully we can have this thing under sealer and ready to move on and start getting the rest of the chassis stuff done. Once we have the body ready to pull off the chassis, we can take the chassis to Keith's house. He can start wiring it, getting all the, we got Haltech on it for it now. Got the, going to change up the actual body harness, wiring harness for the car. A few things there, and basically it's going to get completely rewired when it's all said and done. So get that, he can get going on that before, hopefully by February he can be wiring the car. It gives him plenty of time to get it done. We're going to be a couple months probably into body work and paint yet, so hopefully we can have this thing starting to get buttoned up by March, but we'll see what happens. And of course the engine, you've seen everything there, so we're gonna have to start getting it back together and getting it back into the chassis. So for right now, I believe that's all we got on it. The only updates we have on other vehicles, I think we done got all the bumpers and everything on the 69, showed that. Probably don't even want to look in there because it is filthy, dirty, nasty. Oh, we did get the hood for the car. I'm pretty sure we didn't do any video on the hood, but we've got a hood for it now. It come in. The Magnum truck, the Ram, whatever you want to call it. I think we've all known it as around here as the Magnum now. And it'll be making an appearance back in here shortly. We've got it all running, driving. Race got his license. He's been driving around, and shortly after the transmission goes out. So, but we knew it was pretty much bad. I'm not going to blame it on him. It probably had 200,000 miles on it, which is way more than it should have ever had. And so anyway, we got looking around. Old Marketplace decided to service up rather well with a whole NV3500 manual transmission conversion kit for it. So somebody had all the pedals and Transmission, pretty much about everything we was going to need to switch this thing over, and we talked about it for a little bit, and hopefully we can get that in here and get it done hopefully in a day or so, 2 days max, and get it back out on the road. But yeah, we got a manual transmission we're going to put behind the lowered 1500 Ram, so that'll be coming up here shortly. The Duster, hopefully we can get something on it here shortly. We got it in the third shop right now. Keith's house is booked. Basically, my house is full out here with this, and we decided to take another garage I have at a rental house. So we're gonna take it out and put the car in there, and take all our tubing benders and fabrication tools down there and start doing all our fab and cage work inside there. So hopefully we can get that guy on the way here shortly. So I believe that's it for now, and we'll get you updated as soon as we got some more material.